Whether you are remodeling or starting from scratch, ordering and installing Soapstone Countertops from Woodstock Soapstone is a simple process.
Where do we start?
The first step is to make a sketch of your countertop layout and get some measurements. When in doubt, take multiple measurements and note them on your drawings. We will need to know the overall length and depth of your countertops. Don't forget, the standard countertop thickness is 1 1/4 inches. Make sure to include the overhang and think about backsplash. Once you have the overall dimensions marked on your sketch, measure and indicate where there will be any cutouts. In this kitchen, we have a sink, a cooktop, and several places where the countertop will need to be notched around the post and beam structure. You'll have to include templates or exact measurements for the sink, faucets, and cooktop. After we get your sketch, we will lay it out on our CAD system and create a paper template based on your measurements. This is a great way to double-check your measurements and make sure that your countertops will fit just the way you want them to. Lay the template out on your countertops and verify that the dimensions are correct and any cutouts are in the right places. Once you sign off on the template and return it to us, we will get to work on making the countertops exactly to your specifications. To install your countertops, you will need a straight edge, a builder's level, several clamps, a deck of plastic playing cards to use as shims, and other standard carpentry tools. Your soapstone countertops will be wrapped and shipped standing on edge inside an A-frame crate. Each piece of stone will weigh between 100 and 150 pounds. The easiest way to move the soapstone is to remove the support at the top of the crate and slide the panels of soapstone out one at a time. You'll definitely want a helper for this. If you are replacing countertops in an older home, you are almost guaranteed to run into something unexpected. And as any builder will tell you, even brand new construction is rarely 100% level and plumb. With a few shims and a good level, your new countertops will look great and no one will ever know what lies beneath. When you are ready to start the installation, you will follow a 4-step process: dry fit, mark, epoxy, and sand. During the dry fit stage, you'll be laying out the soapstone panels on your cabinet tops. You'll use this stage to make sure everything fits and to determine the order of installation. The stone pieces are lettered and indicated on the countertop plan. Once all the countertop sections have been laid out, remove the sink section and place it on a suitable work surface. Center the sink over the cutout and lay out the attachment hardware. Gently tighten the set screws. Do not over-tighten, as you will need to remove them at least one more time. Now would be a good time to draw the outline of the sink and mounting hardware. This will be helpful when you reposition the sink for the final time. Slide the sink section back in place and check the fit. Make sure there is adequate clearance in the cabinet for the sink and the plumbing. In this case, the cabinet had to be customized a bit to allow for proper clearance and fit. Once you have a good fit, the sink must be mounted to the underside of the stone section. Apply a generous bead of silicone sealant around the perimeter of the sink cutout. Carefully reset the sink in place using the outline drawn earlier. Reattach the mounting hardware snugly Do not over-tighten. Check along the top edge of the sink and smooth out any excess silicone. Set the sink panel back in place. Now check the relative level across the stone sections with a straight edge. Shim where necessary using plastic-coated playing cards. Before applying the epoxy to the countertop seams, think about a logical sequence in which to glue up the panels. In this case, we start with the longest piece in place and work around the counter. The end piece on the right can be installed last. It helps to mark the seams to ensure proper positioning. Use strips of masking tape. Cut the tape and make alignment marks on them. Slide the panels apart. Next, we'll mix the epoxy. Squeeze out equal quantities of material from each epoxy tube onto a non-absorbent surface. Work quickly and mix thoroughly. This stuff sets up in 5 minutes. You should also wear gloves and eye protection while working with this epoxy. Spread the epoxy onto one edge of the 2 panels to be seamed. Butter the edge completely so that when the 2 panels are pressed together, the excess will be squeezed out. Slide the panels together and check their position. In this installation, a clamp is applied to support the joint beneath which the dishwasher would be installed. Scrape off the excess epoxy before it sets to minimize sanding. Hold the panels in place until the epoxy sets up. The final step to finishing the seam is sanding. Start the sanding with a coarser grit of sandpaper like 180 and work down with progressively finer grits. Finish the seam with steel wool for a smooth, barely visible seam. In this segment, we'll show the 3 options you have for sealing your soapstone countertops: leaving the stone untreated, applying a commercial impregnator such as 511, or using common mineral oil. If you leave the stone untreated, it will slowly become oiled through daily use. You can prevent the stone from darkening by applying a sealer, or you can accelerate the darkening process by oiling the stone. As you can see, the mineral oil darkens the stone and brings out the grain and highlights more dramatically than the impregnator. Both serve to seal the stone. Scratches can be sanded out of your soapstone countertops with fine-grade sandpaper or steel wool and a little elbow grease. If your countertops have been treated, reapply the oil or impregnator after sanding.
Put that down, Noah! Oh, no!
Should your countertops ever be gouged, here's how it can be repaired. Mix up a small amount of the same epoxy used in the installation. Add a bit of crushed soapstone and fill the gouge. Smooth out the filler with a putty knife or tongue depressor. After the filler mix has dried, sand smooth. Soapstone is a beautiful, natural material that brings warmth and beauty to any room. In the kitchen, it especially evokes a sense of history. Many New England farmhouses still use the soapstone sinks that were built by our great-grandparents. With our custom fabrication and complete do-it-yourself instructions, you too can transform your kitchen with the beauty of soapstone.